Hello everybody, it's Wolvie again from Loaded Bolter, here today with another episode of Rapid Fire. I believe we are on episode 8, and today my guest is Andy. He is the proprietor of 4TK Gaming as well as Mad Terrain, and he's here today to talk about his life and hobby as well as take on, of course, our famous Rapid Fire challenge. And as always, that is the first thing we do. So we'll give you the 15 questions when you are ready, and we will flesh that out afterwards. Sound good?
It sounds good, yes.
Kushti. So when you're ready, give you a little thumbs up and I will hit the start button. Your time starts now. How many years have you been in the hobby?
Must nearly be 40.
What game systems do you follow?
Oh, I say 40, I'm lying. 30. Game systems I follow, predominantly 40k.
What are your current armies?
I've got quite a few, but Space Marines, I only play good guys.
What was your first miniature?
I don't know, it has to be a Blood Angel. I've got a box set, so it wouldn't be an individual miniature, but...
Yep. What was your first army?
Blood Angels.
What model or unit have you enjoyed painting the most?
Sanguinary Guard, I loved.
What model or unit have you enjoyed painting the least?
It's got to be something AOS. We did a Stormcast, it's got to be that.
What was the last model you finished?
The Stormcast rule.
How much hobby time do you get per week?
Hardly any.
What is the current model you're working on?
I haven't got a model as such, an army.
Okay. What is your single favorite thing about the hobby?
Community.
What's the least favorite thing about the hobby?
About, God, I don't know. I don't think there's anything I don't dislike about the hobby. Definitely not.
That's okay. Who or what got you into the hobby?
Oh, my local GW store.
What keeps you in the hobby?
I don't know. I just love it.
And what is your one hobby target for the remainder of this year?
To finish my army.
That's it. That's the 15 questions.
That was definitely shorter than 3 minutes.
That was definitely shorter than 3 minutes, I'll tell you that. So the quickest, obviously, we've had was Craig, OG Paintworks. You did it in 1 minute and 11 seconds. You did it in 1 minute 38, which actually it puts you fourth on our leaderboard. So you're not at the bottom by any stretch. So that's the important thing.
That's all right. That's because all of it was rubbish in regards to what no honesty there. I was having to rush it. Felt pressure.
That's all right. That's why we've got this after bit. So you said that your local GW store got you into it. So tell me about that first trip. How did what happened in that first trip?
I think, again, thinking about it, it didn't get me into it. You see how it's all a lie? I think my best recollection of getting into it is from my local hobby store. I think I got into it when my dad was in the army, so I spent most of my life in Germany. Yep. I basically came across the UK, met somebody who did a lot of art, who was really, really good at art. And I think we just ended up getting into the hobby together by collecting Deathwing and Space Hulk Deathwing, and then we painted that. So, and then when I moved to where I am now, Colchester, I went to my local hobby store, and that's where I started getting into it properly.
So you said your first box was then Blood Angels. Was that true?
Yeah. That was true. That was true.
Just checking. So obviously you said you started off with like the Deathwing from like the Space Hulk, but yes. So what made you then think, I'm going to go Blood Angels instead?
Well, I think it was because it was the Space Hulk game that got me into it originally, and obviously that wasn't about, I don't think, when I was getting back into the hobby, and I'd moved, so I had a different friend network, and then that box set was just, I don't know if people who are my age will remember, it was like a cardboard box with this big colourful sticker on it with the Blood Angels in, and it had a couple of land speeders, I think, had Mephiston in there, which I still got. I think it was in that box, and then a load of a brilliant box set, absolutely amazing. It was all made out of metal, so you could chew it. It was quite good.
There's something about the old metal miniatures that are although they're a pain to paint sometimes, like it's much better than the resin. I know when I had like, you know, Space Marine Army, I would find the metal versions instead of resin versions, even if I paid more, because there's just something about it, isn't there?
No, agreed. Yes.
So you are doing what all of us in the hobby dreamed and wished we could do. You own a hobby store.
No, that's what everybody says. But you heard the question where it says how much hobby time do you get?
You say barely any.
Barely any, because the bloody shop. But you know, not that I would change it. By the way, I wouldn't change it. I think what now drives me is the community. I think it's the friends that you get, the people coming down gaming, and that's a big part of it. So you do a lot of talking and chatting. So you don't really, I get nowhere near as much hobby time as I would like, but I think that's just because I've just got a lot that I want to do.
And that's fair. So what, going back to the beginning then, like what made you go, I see a spot here in Colchester, I'm going to open up a hobby store that's obviously, you know, it's not just 40K. You stock other bits and pieces as well. What made you decide I'm going to open a hobby store?
I think just because of where I've gone in life, I ended up I've done lots of things. I studied design at college. I came out of design, I did some DJing, and then obviously you have to get a proper job, and ended up in retail. Because I was in retail, you go up the ladder, you do your bits and pieces, and then you're in the shops going, and you know, and you'll run a store, and you're listening to your boss sitting and saying, "This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to." And you think, "You know what? That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea." And the only way that changes is if you do it for yourself. So that way you can make your own decisions. So I think there was a drive then for me to sit there and do it. And because I love designing, I obviously have a long-term and a short-term goal and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's how I think it ended up starting, because I wanted to work for myself, and it's just something I love doing.
Like I say, I know you kind of maybe disagree, but a lot of us kind of still think that's the dream, to be able to be surrounded by these hobby tables. Obviously we all think to ourselves, well, you just get to sit there and play games all day, like there's nothing else going on. But obviously there's the whole business side. So how is
I will say just quickly, I do love coming to work every day. So you know, I'm no longer in a job where I have to dread getting up. You get them Sunday blues and you think, oh, I've got to work on Monday. I love coming to work and I love doing what I'm doing. So I wouldn't change it for the world.
And that's kind of, you know, that's the awesome side of it. So how has the pandemic affected the business? Obviously, like upstairs in your store, I know you've got like a gaming area, and obviously there's something about going to the store and picking up the models and having a little look and everything like that. Everything's kind of driven online. How has that affected business?
The COVID, wow, yeah, lots. It's been tough, and if you go upstairs and look upstairs at the minute, it's a mess. It's been a mess because I'm doing lots of other stuff up there at the minute, and it doesn't look like it needs a big tidy up. But yeah, I mean, on a serious note, COVID's been bad, and it's been bad for a lot of people. I'm by far not the worst affected. You know, I've been able to refocus because there's lots of different arms to obviously the business. So, you know, we did a lot on our website. We've changed our website a lot. There's been a lot of focus on that. There's only so much you can do, obviously, because the resources aren't always out there when you're in a pandemic. But like we have one every year. But it's not, you know, it's not the same. So you have to kind of diversify a bit, and you have to try and. So, but you've got to stay busy. So that was the key for us. But yeah, it's been tough, and I think it's tough for any hobby store. And I think it's been great in one way because a lot of people have been able to do their hobby stuff, get their bits done, go through their pile of shame, do a lot of painting. And you saw that at the beginning of the pandemic when everybody was buying everything because GW said, "Oh, we're just shutting down for a month." Oh my God, what a nightmare! That was. I added to
that. I think I was placing orders every week.
It was horrendous, and picking paints is not very nice. You know, people are ordering like 20, 30 paints, and it's just taking forever. But it was lucky it got us through, and obviously it's calmed down a bit. Manufacturers are getting a bit better, but there's a whole host of things that you just won't and didn't expect would happen. So it's been quite, but I'm glad that we've been able to survive, and I'm glad there's a lot of people out there that have been able to spend some decent time on the hobby. So
I think for a business such as yours, I think it's one of those things where this is one of the worst periods that any business can go through. So if you can come out at the end of it still trading, that's one of the worst things you can go through, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You've kind of solidified your business for the future, and you've changed the online, which is always helpful and stuff like that. So what are looking forward then, coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, I don't know if it will run on time in the UK, but obviously we're due to come out June, July, summertime anyways.
Yeah.
What are some of 40K and Mad Terrain's kind of goals for the future? What are you planning kind of coming out of it going forward?
A massive party. And then make up for the year that we've just not been able to live it up a bit. I don't know. It's difficult because one of the key things is obviously you've got to write off last year, so you can't really use that as any kind of platform to make any kind of plans because it's all going to change again. So your mix and your balance between what you're selling online and what you're doing in store and the gaming is all going to be different. I think it's key's going to be ready for whatever may come. So we have a few plans in place, a few just different ones depending on what happens. So it's just about looking at that, and then we do have them, but it all depends on how we come out of this and how the shop's affected, how quickly things pick up. But we just have to wait and see for that. But because it's just tough. It's just tough to make them predictions.
So, in terms of the terrain side of things, now MDF terrain is becoming a bigger deal because it's a more affordable way for people to get terrain. Every terrain piece that I own, I think, is MDF. Like it's a cheaper way of doing it. Yes. I'm assuming your design background is what made you kind of think I could make terrain here.
Yeah, well, that's my favourite bit, if I'm honest. The shop and the retail is great, and the hobby is brilliant. But I love designing and creating, so I've always kind of dreamt of these boards that I would love to play on, and that's what drives me is the fact that I love the design aspects, and that's part and parcel of our development and how we'll go forward. Definitely, so there'll be a lot more of that. But yeah, that is why I got into it in the first place. I just wanted to be able to have GW make great terrain, absolutely brilliant terrain. It's a bit expensive sometimes, but they don't always make a complete set. You can't you can't make everything you want to make. And I want to be able to make bases, garrisons, research facilities, and all that kind of stuff. So we can have different styles of boards for all of this kind of stuff that we kind of want to play on, that we've dreamt of playing on for battles and scenarios and all that kind of stuff.
And I suppose it's for people that have got a multitude of game things. You want a piece of terrain that is going to sit perfectly fine on a 40K board, but if I was to go and play, say, the Batman miniatures game, you could perhaps take a bit of that and it would be a research facility, in Gotham. So it's got a multitude of uses as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things about the design is that when we develop two ranges, technically speaking. We do the hab blocks and we do the complex range. They both use the magnet system and they both can interact with each other. And we have a load of accessories that work with them, like walkways and containers and all that kind of stuff. We develop them ranges because it allows us to sit there and go, oh, actually, like we're just bringing out a new armored deployable hab block, just like a little kill zone thing. But it's exactly the same as the half habs. It's just got an accessory on there that changes the look and style of it. So the idea is we have a system that can be adapted and changed quite quickly to suit, lots of different genres or styles of game.
That's really cool. Obviously, I'm one of the lucky ones who've been able to kind of come into store and smell that undeniable, slightly burned wood smell, and see. I think last time I came in, it was almost like I would call it a research facility. I don't know what, but it was set up kind of near towards the paint section in your store.
Yeah.
And just seeing that was just like that is cool as hell. Like when you look at seeing it, and bearing in mind that stuff's not painted. That's just almost there as kind of like a demo. This is what it looks like.
Yes.
It looked cool just as it was. So especially if people are able to take the time to paint it and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
It's really awesome. And terrain, I think as 40K players, terrain has really come back into the game as being quite important in terms of line of sight blocking and obscuring and all the rest of it. I think good terrain, I think every player is looking out for more of it, and that's where it depends on how much money you've got. You could go and buy all of the lovely GW plastics, all of their Sector Mechanicus and everything like that, but not everybody's got that. I don't particularly enjoy spending lots of money on terrain. That's why I choose MDF.
Yeah. Which is it's horses for courses at the end of the day. There's a lot of people, we see what people buy, and we can see the trends of what people buy, and MDF definitely has its place. It can be quite expensive sometimes, but predominantly it's a reasonable price depending where you go. And you can do pretty much so many different setups now. If you go back 15 years, 10 years, it was just nowhere near like it is now. And it's part and parcel of the game. Playing on decent boards is makes it more real. It connects you more with the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely prefer having a decent board with terrain, and obviously with that you've got to have painted models.
I was going to say, I was about to say, you one of the ones like myself, I will not, and I think there's probably only 2 times in my life where I've fielded unpainted models, and I don't like it. I kind of hope they get killed first. Are you like the whole painted thing?
Yeah,
as well?
that's one of the reasons they take the mickey out of me. They take the mickey out of me for it, because I've got like this massive Space Marine army. It's not quite painted, so I don't play because I can't play with unpainted. I've had a few games where I'm learning more rules sets and stuff like that, where it changes, the rule set changes, and then I'll play some like intro games with them just to learn how to play it. But yeah, I don't play any 40k games because they're not painted.
And if you're only getting like less than an hour a week, they're not going to get painted anytime soon. So you say that you only play the good guys, if you will. You call them the good guys, the Imperium of Man.
Absolutely.
So why is it only the Imperium then? Why has Chaos or Xenos never tempted you over?
See, we always have this argument in the store all the time, and the way I just look at it as you're right, they're not good. There's nothing good about them. I think you can compare them to the Empire in Star Wars Legion. It's exactly the same. But at the end of the day, they're humans, and I'm a human, so I think that's why it's there. So that's why they're the good guys. Nothing else. I don't think. Let's be honest. I think the Dark Future or the Imperium, it's all bad. I don't think there's anything good out of it. So
instead of in like countries at war, it's just planets at war. That's all it is. It's just
yeah.
Everyone thinks they've got the solution, but my bread and butter is mainly Deathguard, so I would disagree with you. They're humans, but with added extras.
Yeah, wow. It's all right. We could argue all day.
I'm sure we could. So obviously, in terms of your store, you stock 40k. You've got some Age of Sigmar stuff in there as well. What else you got? What else goes in the store? And more importantly, how do you pick? Right, I'm going to put that game system in my store.
Yeah, that's hard. That is really hard. And we've got a plan obviously for next year, and I think it's important to stick to the plan. It changes every now and then, but it's definitely, you have to keep an eye. Well, we're quite restricted with space, so we have to focus on certain bits and pieces. So we're not like everybody else where I can stick like everything online and go, we've got it, or we might not have it. We just focus on sci-fi wargaming predominantly and commercial wargaming. So anything we know that's commercially viable that we can do. So, and we know we don't do anywhere near as much as we would want to do, but we do 40k pretty well. We do AOS all right, and we do Legion pretty good. We do X-Wing, and then we're starting to do some of the hybrid games as well, and obviously we do all the GW specialist games as well. So that's mostly what it's there. And then you have the accessories and things like that. But the whole thing is a nightmare. It's a minefield what to buy, because the industry changes and brands change, and what may have been popular now isn't popular in 6 months' time. Or you've got Kickstarters that come up that do really, really well, but after that there's nowhere to sell them. So it's difficult to choose, definitely. But you've got to kind of rely a lot on what you see what the people coming into your store, what they're playing, what they're talking about, and just what you and then you pick from that. So there's no right or wrong answer. Definitely not. It's
so how does the meta affect your stock levels? Because obviously, especially with Games Workshop, when a codex comes out, suddenly everyone's buying a certain model or a certain bunch of units because they're the best, and stuff will go untouched for absolutely ages. Now, as a frontline gaming store, you've got some of the best GW stocks I think I've known outside of a GW store in terms of how you keep it stocked. Like, how do you plan for meta, or how do you deal with something that's just been sat on the shelf for a year that's not been sold?
I think you just buy a lot of everything and just no. I think let's be honest, GW are pretty clever. If a model doesn't sell, they'll change the codex and it sells in the next codex. So the overstocks that we have, I don't think we've got much. Very rarely have we got much that we're having to sit on that doesn't sell. I mean, you make mistakes every now and then, but what goes around comes around, and what's not meta now might not, might be the meta in the next one. So, and GW are very aware, and I think a lot of the times when they change the rules, it's because of what they've probably got on stock. And I've been in the industry long enough now to see it change from one to another quite regularly. So I'm not too worried with that. It's just when something does come in, you get caught out. So let's take the Dark Angels, for instance, and we'll take the Terminators and how good they are. Everybody wants
Best
to buy
in the game.
Absolutely. And I haven't had them because GW haven't had them in stock for about 6 or 8 weeks now, because they just can't keep up with the demand. So, you'll sell your stocks, and then when they'll come in, they'll go, but then they'll balance themselves out because everybody would have had them until the next change. So, it's fine, and you just get caught out every now and then when these things hit. When a codex changes, you're guaranteed that there's going to be 1 or 2 items in that codex that you're not going to have. And I think we've got Drakari coming out, new codex this week. That comes out, and you can already tell that there's going to be stuff that's going to go out of stock straight away. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah, when I was gearing up for the Deathguard, the new Deathguard codex coming out, I don't know why. I literally thought to myself, I'm going to buy some Blight Lord Terminators and I'm going to buy some Death Shroud Terminators.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't have many of those, and I thought, well, I'll get some more because codex changes might make them worthwhile. Well, obviously the codex hit. Yeah, but the Death Shroud weren't worth all that much, and the Blight Lord were okay. But now, not that I've played a game, but as they sit, they're still pretty useful.
Yes, and again, Death Shroud is a perfect example, exactly the same as the Dark Angels, the Terminators, is they came in, went straight out, and then you couldn't get hold of them because all of a sudden, and GW are just not in a place where they can prepare themselves for having the stock on it. Because I'm not sure if they know, but they obviously can't know what units are going to be that great because they don't supply enough of them. I don't know how much stuff that they've launched has gone out of stock within a week or 2 weeks,
and then it stays that way for. So I think being in a pandemic isn't helping when they've come up with this absolute rapid release schedule over the last 12 to 18 months, particularly since they've started doing Psychic Awakening. They really started to speed up, and obviously with the pandemic, I know with the Deathguard Codex and stuff like that, because some of the stuff was made offshore.
It's all made and it's pretty much all done in China now. I think they must have made the changes knowing that Brexit's going to hit, and then they're going to have issues with maybe some European suppliers and some costing issues. So I think went to China quite a while ago, but because of Brexit, I think it's because of Brexit, the demand that they've seen is obviously been big because of COVID, but they're just not, their turnaround and filling the stock and the shelves, it's just not happening. It's completely it's the worst it's ever been. I mean, they've never ever been out of stock on so many items like they have at the minute, and it just doesn't get replaced. So that must be due again to where they're sourcing. I don't know what it is, but it never used. 2 years ago, they had I think if you look at it now, from a stock replenishment point of view, GW was struggling to probably hit 70%, 80% stock fulfillment. Back in the day, they used to be about 95, 97%. So it goes to show how much of it has been, how affected they've been, obviously, either from COVID or Brexit, or maybe both.
Yeah, like I said, from my time in the hobby, you know, over the last 20 years or so, every time they've been out of stock, it's strategic because they're reboxing, or they very rarely have gone out of stock because they've not been able to replenish it quick enough. Certainly in this country, I can't necessarily speak for other countries, but in this country with the Nottingham plant and everything like that. But yeah, in the last kind of 18 months, particularly since the pandemic hit, it's been really tough to get anything.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, it's great that there's a pandemic to a certain degree, because it gives us a chance to sit there and get it in, because you've got to look at all the codexes that we've not been able to play in game yet. So, you know, so none of us really know what the meta is or what's happening, but every time a codex comes in, there seems to be another hit of you know, let's buy these and sell out.
Yeah, I think at the moment, in terms of that, we're all relying on play testers in the United States and Canada and Australia and stuff like that, who are perhaps got different rules to us at the moment. Yeah. And just they're showing us what the meta is. We're just all kind of going along and buying accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't affect us. We're still doing it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's the main thing. So obviously you say, I mean, I know what your opening hours are, so I know how much time you must spend at the store itself, and you might not get that much hobby time away. But what are some of the things you do away from the hobby store that aren't hobby related, but you still really, really enjoy? That's always the last question I ask people. What keeps you sane outside of war dollies?
Well, I'm going to be honest, this is pretty much my life. I work 6 days a week, and I work some stupid hours. So you can all pretty much guarantee to phone the store and I'll be here. So, you know, I'll start at 8:30 and I'll work till midnight. I think what keeps me sane is obviously my family, which I'm presuming is the same with most. I'm very lucky. I've got a good family network, and I've got a lady that supports me a lot, and is very tolerant. So that helps. So, you know, we have family. Our family time is Sunday, so we make sure it's dedicated to folks. To Sunday is just family time, and that's what it is. Everything else is, you know, you'll get time when you can, but I don't think outside of this, I don't know. I love designing, so that's my spare time. So if I have any spare time, I'm designing. So that's what I do, other than family. That's it. Have a sad life, really.
That's well, I mean, like I say, part of me still thinks you're living the dream, and you might be selling it down so other people don't open stores and go against you and take away your livelihood. But like I say, it's one of those things where I think we'd all like to try it just for a day, and then if we don't like it, we can give it back, sort of thing. It's just it's just one of those things. So over the next 12 months, what are we going to see from 40K? What are we going to see from you?
Well, we've got a rent review next September, so you know we're already putting in plans to obviously look to see if we can go to a big place. So in an ideal world, we've got to recover from COVID. We've got to see what that has, because that's obviously changed everybody's plans to a degree, and then we're going to see from there where we can go to. The aim, though, in September would be to find a bigger place, because I'd love to do a YouTube channel. I constantly have chats and discussions with Pat, who looks after BFS Wargaming, because he's local. We constantly have discussions for it, and obviously there's lots to come from Mad Gaming Terrain, so there's a big drive on that as well. So we should see some big increases in that. We want to introduce a membership scheme for the website.
I'm very interested in that. I've seen it like thing, and there's someone who regularly orders. A little membership scheme would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, we wanted to do it quite a while ago, but COVID just set everything back. Because your pocket money is all disappeared. So so 40K would like to see a membership scheme come in. We obviously want to see a range increase. So we're looking at that for next year. Mad Gaming Terrain's going to have a lot of changes in regards to its brands and stuff like that we're doing. So we've seen some new like kill zones come out. We'll see a couple of new themes come out next year as well. And then what you'll see, that's with Mad. And then obviously we'll get back on speed with the tournaments, and hopefully we can fit in a channel and start that off and see where we go with that.
What sort of content would you be looking to put on the channel?
Well, obviously we're quite lucky because we've got a club. We have access to a nice community. We've got a lot of players, a lot of gamers. We've got great painted armies. We've got all the boards upstairs. So definitely want to be doing obviously back reps. Essentially so I can use my terrain, help sell the terrain, use, because I don't have, we tried working with certain people, obviously, to try and get our terrain out there, but it's difficult with MDS stuff because people will build it, but they don't always paint it. So the aim's to start the channel up so we can then promote our own products through the channel.
Of course.
And then that way we can paint it, and then we can try and do them boards that everybody looks at and goes, wow, that's epic. And just be able to game on them kind of boards that people can't really put together at the minute.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will. Like, obviously, I know not necessarily you guys will do it, but my MDF, I've put a bunch of LEDs in it, and the way that looks when it's all painted and all lit up, awesome. Yeah, absolutely insane. Because on a day like today where it's miserable and raining, you turn those lights on when you're playing a game, and it's immersive. It's really awesome. Yeah. If you get someone who puts in a few LEDs, then like I say, it just adds another level, doesn't it? And people putting their flavors on and building those kind of boards will be awesome. And I've got no doubt seeing like the stuff that you've got and seeing your demo piece at the front of the store, you'll be able to put together some boards that people want to see and people want to use.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is to be able to show it in its context to how I picture it, because I'm pretty sure that once I do that, people can see what it's like and how versatile and adaptable it is, because it's difficult because it's all magnetized. The complex range is like Lego, basically. You just build, we built a massive board that I put on Instagram, but it's a huge kind of imperial city. It stands it's about 70 centimeters tall. It's quite a big board, but
that's a sizable piece.
Great. Yeah, it'd be great to game it. So I'm hoping that there's a lot after recovering from COVID. There's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of plans that we've got to go across the board.
Well, I'm not a tournament player, but when you do a tournament, I will definitely throw my Deathguard into the mix and get your wooden spoon award probably for getting the most spankings.
Oh, it's about playing for fun, isn't it? In most cases, I'm not a tournament player. I'll go to a tournament, and if I'm going to a tournament, I'm going there with the attitude that I'm just going to have some decent games. Lose my first game, so I'm playing some people that are average. I don't, playing the good players at tournaments is sometimes quite stressful.
I remember, because I used to tournament a lot more when I was in my teens. There was something to be said about being the guy that everybody wants to play. Oh, you should play him because he's awesome fun. Like, he's good fun. And there's something more to be said than that, rather than, if you play him, you're just going to get beat. And there's something more about playing, if you can have an interesting some people you talk to and they don't want to talk to you. They just want to move. But if you can get a good conversation going back and forth, a bit of banter over the table, that's Warhammer's the winner in that scenario.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the ultimate aim, isn't it? Is to have it. But people will argue with you because some people play it because the competitiveness of it is what they want. That's what they thrive, and that's why the hobby's so great, is because there's something there for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Andy.
It's easy, wasn't
it? It's easy. So, and if you want to check out all of the stuff that 40k are doing, your website is www.40k.co.uk.
It is, yes.
There's a lot of K's there, but it'll be underneath your name, and we'll also get the Mad Gaming website down there as well, so that everybody's got the full stuff that they can look for.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
No problems at all. Catch you later.